lowly. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. And that brings us down, I think
we're at 15.
So worldly entanglements and poor excuses, of which we all have many.
All right. Good to see you guys. Has anybody gotten sick lately?
Yeah.
I have gotten, I have such bad sinus pressure right now. Yeah.
Gastrointestinal.
And I'm taking, thanks, Mira. Gosh.
We should have brought our 95 pounds.
Yes, it doesn't let go.
Yeah. Well, let's do this then. Oh, it's going around? Yeah, so have mercy on me and pray for me because I'm not fully with it today. Mucinex is not working. I have no idea. All right. Chapter 14, verse 15. Now when one of those who sat at the table with him heard these things, he said to him, "Blessed is he who shall eat bread in the kingdom of God." Then he said to him, "A certain man gave a great supper and invited many, and sent his servant at supper time to say to those who were invited, 'Come, for all things are now ready.' But they all with one accord began to make excuses. The first said to him, 'I have bought a piece of ground, and I must go and see it. I ask you to have me excused.' And another said, 'I have bought 5 yoke of oxen, and I am going to test them. I ask you to have me excused.' Still another said, 'I have married a wife, and therefore I cannot come.' So that servant came and reported these things to his master. And the master of the house, being angry, said to his servant, 'Go out quickly into the streets and the lanes of the city, and bring in here the poor and the maimed, and the lame and the blind.' And the servant said, 'Master, it is done as you commanded, and still there is room.' Then the master said to his servant, 'Go out into the highways and hedges, and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled. For I say to you, that none of those men who are invited shall taste my supper.'" You know, Jesus has been talking to the Pharisees this whole time, right? And one of the big things they keep saying to him is, look at him. He hangs out with all these sinners, the tax collectors, all these, the poor people. They want them to be thrown away. They're like, you're not good enough. Jesus is telling this story and it flips it. What do you think this story means when you read this? There's a few levels to hit it. There's of what's happening at that time, and then also for our time.
It's almost like the opposite.
Yeah. So, remember the Jews were first called to the banquet. He's come. He's Jewish. So he's come to his people first. And most of them, when invited to the banquet, to the great feast between the groom and his bride, union between us and Christ, they're going, I got things to do. This isn't, I'm busy. These people in the highways and the hedges, out, the poor, the maimed, these are the Gentiles. These are who we know the Old Testament of God leading is the Israelites, right? Well, God loved every other person there just as much as the Israelites, but he couldn't reach them. He could only reach the Israelites at the time, right? So now's their time. Jesus is there. God incarnate is there, and he's going out to bring them all in. I think there's something else in here too, is that if we are servants of Christ, we put ourselves here in as the servant, right? We go out and invite them to the supper, to the feast. And it's not just in the high places, it's to the poor, the maimed, the lame, and the blind. Anything else, any imagery this brings to you guys' mind? Krista?
I think this also speaks to our saying I really need to go to church. Like, do I really have to go to church? And so the bishop says something surprising. He's like, you don't have to go to church. And so the guy's like, oh, you know what? I'm gonna go tell my mom. Like, I go to church. He's like, well, wait, I have a question for you. And so the spiritual son, who's just like regular people like us, not someone in the clergy. And so the bishop says to him, he goes, do you love Jesus? And I'm going to pause here, and I'm going to pose this question to you guys as well. I intend to do this to my kids. I've been really thinking about it. But, like, what kind of reaction do you personally have when this question is posed to you? Do you love Jesus? Do you have a reaction where you're like, absolutely, yes, 100%? Do you have, like, a weird reaction to that where you're like, well, I mean, he's God, but, like, do I love him? Like, what kind of reaction do you have? And examine that. But anyway, so the kid says, well, yeah, I love Jesus. And he goes, oh, well, then you have to go to church. Because when you love somebody, you don't want to be separated from them. And it's the same thing with the Eucharist. Like, if you love Jesus, and Jesus says, I am offering myself for you. I am here, body, blood, for the healing and remission of sins. Here I am. I'm here to help you. You love Jesus. You're like, yes, please. I suck. I need help. I need so much help. All the help, right? And so, but we make a lot of excuses for that kind of stuff. Like this kid who's like, I have to go to church. Like, I was working hard. I got school. I got a job. I got friends.
I can love him in my off hours.
I can love him like in my spare time outside in nature. Like, I don't have to like go do that. But and the point isn't just church. It's how many excuses we make where we're like, well, like I would pray, but I'm really tired. Or like I would hold that door for somebody and be a good Christian emissary, but I'm in a really big hurry. Anyway, that's what really strikes me about this passage.
Yeah. You can be either or in it, right? Come on in. You're fine. Good to see you guys.
Well, you made it.
Just to walk.
No worries.
With 3 children.
Come on in. Where are the babies?
The husbands.
We're very happy to see you.
With the girls.
We're very happy to see you, but that's the babies are really what we were looking for.
I'm used to it.
Yeah.
Everyone likes
Now I get to treat people like my mom treats me or my grandma, where they're like, "You came here. Where's the babies?" I don't want to see you. I don't want to see you. At that time, it's the Jews who first receive, and then it's the Gentiles who are in the highways and the hedges. They're out, the rest. But, also us growing up in churches, we can be the people denying him as well. Like in any, not just Orthodoxy, but usually in any sort of denomination, when you have somebody that comes in from the outside and they convert or they become a Christian, the zeal it's not always this way. But I mean, there's usually some zeal there. They're very excited. They've come in. But something about growing up in something, sometimes you can take for granted. Well, these are just the waters I kind of swim in, So, yeah. Did you want to say something, Lance? I thought I saw your eyes go.
I don't have too much to say. I guess I think, I don't know if you hit it, but the suppers, clearly he's talking about the Eucharist, right? It's kind of like,
Yeah. Well, it's like, I think it's it's the Eucharist, but it's also the Great Supper at the end of this age. At the end of in the final account, Revelation talks about the great wedding supper between the groom, Christ, and his bride, the church, and the union between them, and come to the feast, right? So again, it's typological where it's both. Yeah.
there's layers to it. And then also,
Yeah.
I'm going to add something Krista was saying about love, and that story of the bishop and the guy wanting to go to church, and it's like, can love be separated from action? It's like, I don't think it can. Like, love is acting, like doing the act of the thing, like, because, I don't know, for me, I'm not a very emotional feeling dude, so when people are like, do you love Jesus? Like, I don't get super picture, like, I got this strong, but like, I look at the things I do, I go to church, I try to
Yeah,
serve,
you
all
try
this,
to-
and I got this evidence going, I'm like, well, clearly I do. I
Yeah.
act as if I do, So for me, it's hard to separate love from action.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who say, I love, but then you go and look like,
Yeah, love always starts as you're willing good for somebody else. You want to be with them, but then it follows with an action. It manifests. That orientation you have manifests in the world always with action. It can't be... Who was that? I missed him.
There was Nevin.
Oh, I missed her.
I
missed
Vesna
Vesna.
because they've been in there like all
Was that
summer,
Vesna?
and- Yes.
Oh,
and
good.
They spray stuff like there's like tons of yellow jackets that I don't know. I would told my kids like knock it off the container and I would toss it because it's old and it's just like anyway. Like can we give them a
No, they've been spraying near that.
I bribed her to get inside.
Honestly, where there was a lollipop.
I told her that.
We have a peppermint.
She's back in.
She wants a lollipop.
There might be other candy in
Give her
there.
any,
Yeah,
anything,
yeah.
candy, whatever, just
Except,
something she
except
can't
for
choke on.
except for what they're selling.
Okay.
Nothing that is being sold.
All the candy that was there is somewhere else.
That's a Nema lollipop, you should Nema. What about Nema?
I'm gonna find
Is it like the hard candy?
I can be mean to my own kids about not giving them sugar, but I want to give Vesna I want to search the halls for a lollipop. She's so cute. That's really good, Lance. I mean, it requires action. It's like, no, I love you, but I got other things to do. I'm going to stay here. It's like, no, come to the feast.
And I think to your point though about, having sort of maybe like a discomfort or like not being an overly emotional person, I think that your actions do prove love, but that's part of that exploration process of understanding why are we uncomfortable with that word, right? Because Jesus tells us point blank we're supposed to
Yeah.
love others too. But I think all those were really great points.
Yeah, great. All right, 25. Now great multitudes went with him, and he turned and said to them, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. Our God, who is love, is saying to hate. What's going on here? Is he telling us to hate our mother and father and curse them? Mira, I hate you. Are we supposed to do that? What do you think his point is here? Right?
We're also supposed to honor our parents, so we're not supposed to hate them.
Yeah. But relationally, right? This is he often uses very extremes to get us to think, and probably other things that I'm low-minded to understand. But like we get these two opposite things at times. But it's showing us relationality and hierarchy of Christ's first, always. There's no allegiance before Christ, right? So if you were married and you come to Christ, you become a Christian, and your wife, not that she just doesn't want to be Christian, she goes, no, I can't. Like, it's me or him. Well, your answer's him, right? That's what we're being called to. Your parents, who back at that time were pagans, right? And every dinner, their whole life, they're worshiping pagan gods. And they go, no, you can't do this. You're not going to be a part. You choose Christ. That's the allegiance you're looking for. Now, that doesn't mean you're not loving them and you're going to try to bring them along. But that's how far it goes. And we already had the part about I come to divide, right? 3 against 2 in one family. I bring a sword. This can happen in our own lives, but especially at that time when everybody was pagan, and that really did bring division, because not only is a new god in town in the pantheon of pagans, it's the true God who we worship fully, and the pagan gods were gone. So this was very rough stuff, and it's a big reason why Christians at a time lived communitarian. Like, it wasn't just because they did truly love each other and they all lived in one, but it was also by necessity, is because the many were kicked out of their homes or maybe their inheritances, or they were poor already, so they would sell everything they have. So they know, okay, I'm going to sell this, and now we're going to live together and we're going to take care of each other, because it was that hard to be a Christian back then, right? Any questions on that or thoughts on that part? I know it's when we read it, it's a bit jarring, isn't it? You know, because how much do we love our parents? How much do we love our wives and our children? We love them so much.
It is kind of like, don't let your relationship with them hinder your relationship with God.
Yeah,
You love them, but your first priority should always be.
yeah,
And don't deviate.
Yeah.
From, I can't go to church because my husband.
Yeah.
I have to do this.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
and the beautiful thing is when you love him first, truly, they'll be loved even more, right? Because
Right.
he is love.
I think some Protestants take that as like, oh, now I get to shun my other cousins or family away.
There's all sorts of weirdos
Yeah.
that go that route. It's not just
Because
Protestants.
if you
I've
take this
seen
literally, then you end up becoming a hypocrite in a way.
it. Yeah,
You're constantly between Old and New Testament. You're bashing your head like,
yeah,
oh, honor my father and mother. Well, hate them too.
yeah.
I'm confused now.
Well, it's showing relationality and hierarchy, right? Of who comes first, and it's Christ always. Something I've always tell my girls, and they're rather young, but I want it in there. It's like they asked me one time what should I look for in a husband, which they're still young enough where they ask me questions and they care about what I think. And God willing, this will continue. We'll see. And I'm like, find somebody who loves Christ more than he loves you. If you find somebody who does that, they'll love you more than they ever could imagine. So, all right. Now here's the other one. Whoever does not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. I want to look at this from two lenses of what are they hearing then? Jesus has not gone to the cross yet, right? They don't know about this. He's talked about it. They don't understand. The cross to us is a symbol of our Lord and what he did for us and the union between us and him, right? Where he defeated death by death, and bring us to eternal life, right? Well, up until that time, and at this time he's saying that the cross is a curse. It's the worst. It's Roman power. That's the symbol. And that was the worst way to die. That's why they were hung. It's the worst way. So him saying this to people is like, I can only imagine that their minds were totally blown. Like, what do you mean? Like the Roman cross? You have to carry that? But what does that mean in our own life? Now, as a Christian, in the walk, after 2,000 years of Christendom, we know what the cross is. We know what Christ is. And he's saying to follow him, carrying the cross, being ready to die. There's it comes back into my life every now and then in weird waves where I'm around people who, they say, well, you're just saved by faith alone. And it's just faith. It's just, well, I believe in God, believe in Jesus. That's it, right? How can you read this and think that way? It requires action. He's calling us to follow him. And when he says disciple, it's not just talking about those 12. He's talking about us, right? So we are carrying a cross. We bear suffering. And this world is full of suffering. I mean, it's full of death, right? Krista, any thoughts
I
there?
was going to pull up a quote that this brings to mind about the reason that we even have suffering. And if I can't find it quickly, I'll just paraphrase it really quickly.
And just one part of it, like I said, this world, it's full of suffering and death, and we bear it in his name, in his identity, and his purpose. That's what this is called for. And if it came to that, we're in a very great time still in America to be a Christian. We don't have to deal with that, but we have to ask ourselves, would we be ready to die? Would we be scared, if we're dying for him?
Or I wish I thought to have it ready, because really suffering essentially is given to us so that we can strive toward holiness, so we can strive toward sainthood. That's how you overcome temptation and instead choose Christ. Couple weeks back, we talked about that one nun who had a book and she was teaching other nuns. And one of the quotes from that book too is like, it's true that I suffer, but do I suffer well, right? And I think when I ask myself that question most of the time, no, I'm like, it's so hard, right? And part of that call is to also do so with grace and humility and to shut your mouth. Some little Monday tidbits to get you through the week.
That shutting the mouth part for me, that's a...
If I can find the original quote I meant to talk about, though, it's from one of the earlier saints. I'll post it on the WhatsApp.
I just had a real quick question about the idea about the cross. Did he not bear his cross? And it seems to me over the years that people, whether they are a deep faith or not, they use that, like, that's my cross to bear.
Yeah.
And I wonder if someone says, like, that's my cross to bear, and maybe that you have a child that's, difficult in different ways or whatever, and you might say, well, I love the child, but that's my cross to bear. Now, if someone says something like that, would it be appropriate to broaden the conversation about what this actually means here, or?
I mean, I think I don't think that that's incorrect. I mean, that is, any suffering we endure in this life is a cross to bear.
I hear that from a lot of people, like.
But our Lord, he came and he's come not to just redeem us, but to redeem the whole world, which is sick and full of death. And we're called to follow in his footsteps doing the same thing. So to do that, we must endure suffering, but overcome it in his name, in his purpose, following him.
Thank you, I just thought.
Look at that. Yeah, that's great.
I think that could be a really natural opening too. Like we just talked about this in my Bible study. That comes from this part of the Bible. There's a lot of those too that our society is shaped by, like throw pearls to swine. That's a Bible one right there too. There's some others we talked about recently as well.
There's many, and it's like even with the students who say, do you know where this comes from? I go, no. Well, just everybody knows that there is such things in the Bible because I'm not teaching in an apartment. And I said that's where those kind of things come from. Like little things like that.
Sure, and you don't realize it, but they're playing, get the plank out of your own eye kind of stuff. There's some other Angie knows some.
There's when during COVID, when there was homeschooling going on, we had this tutor to help because we realized my kids realized that they didn't want me to teach them, and I realized I didn't want to teach them either. And and she was wonderful, beautiful, like just a beautiful Christian soul. She was telling something about some family who was enduring really hard troubles. Maybe they died or...
A man was eaten by a shark.
Yeah. Oh, gosh. Sorry to go so dark. But she was like, I just don't understand it. Like, these are good Christian people, And I just heard this story relayed from Krista, but, and that's a natural question. It's like, I don't understand. I'm following Christ. Why does this happen? It's like, well, this is part of our walk. It's part of our walk, right? Is to endure the suffering. And it's something that, I've told you guys before, when I received Christ, I was a free agent. I wasn't part of any church. And something that I found in the Orthodox Church is not a focus on suffering, but on the overcoming of suffering. And that suffering is just part of life in various ways. It's not just hard toil, it's the stress of life, the anxiety of life. It's all sorts of things. And, because I had been around a lot of Christianities that was just like, maybe calling it used car salesman Christianity is too far, but it's just kind of like,
I know exactly.
come and get it, come to Christ, everything's good.
Yes.
And it is good, but they're not really
I
showing
think they kind of
what,
missed the point. Like, the most perfect man on earth came down, was betrayed by one of his closest friends, and was nailed to a cross for being a good man. Like,
yeah,
that's
and
the
we're
thing.
following him.
Yeah.
So that's really well said. I mean, we're following him, and we're not perfect, and we have all of our faults. We're still to do that, right? So, but it always felt like when it was said that way, it was very like crystal light, saccharine sort of, and it didn't feel right, because then I'm going like, well, what about all this around us? What's going on here? Well, they forgot the part of like, no, there's more to this. There's a walk in Christ. It's not just now you've accepted Christ, everything's wonderful, it's a party. No, it's, when I received Christ, all my problems weren't solved. The problems I thought I had went away because I realized those weren't problems at all. But then you have new problems if you're following him, and that's going to affect your life. Yeah, but I really, orthodoxy, all the stories of the saints who endured such great suffering in various forms and ways was very, it's just true. It's what we're called to do. So I feel like I left that on a low point. What? Keep moving? All right. I got the hook. I'm getting pulled off stage. All right. 28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, does not sit down first and count the cost, whether he has enough to finish it, lest after he has laid the foundation and is not able to finish, all who see it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going to war to make war against another king does not sit down first and consider whether he is able to, with 10,000 to meet him who comes against him with 20,000? Or else while the other is still a great way off, he sends a delegation and asks conditions of peace. So likewise, whoever of you does not forsake all that he has cannot be my disciple. What do you think he's saying here?
I would say he's saying to kind of detach from this world.
Yeah, that's the end, right? Forsake all that you have. That's not first and foremost anymore. Can't take it with you.
Don't say you hold behind the casket.
Yeah. And then what is he talking about counting the cost? Right?
Like looking ahead, like what?
Yeah. No, understanding what this life is about, right? That there is a cost to it. And, he talks about building a tower, whether you have enough to finish it. Okay, you can start this walk. Will you finish the walk following him? Count the cost, because
I would say just like if you have you said earlier something about faith, just because you have faith, that doesn't mean everything's all hunky-dory. It's not, but I think if you have
faith that manifests.
And it's right, and it does manifest, then you change from inside.
He changes
out, so to
you.
speak. And I think that you continue to do in a godly way.
Yeah.
Because as your faith grows inside you. And that may also be your cross to bear, because now you may lose friends, or you may, whatever circumstances, your life changes in a way.
Yeah.
And those things aren't always easy to do.
No.
So that's kind of your cross right there.
Yeah.
Actually, if anything, when you do have faith, there's a lot of tests that I feel that the devil comes down and really tests you with, and then that's it. You really
Yeah.
have to discern, is it easy to blame God for all these bad things happening?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily, it might not even be him doing it, but you've gotta show, hey, I have such faith in you that no matter what this outside
Yeah.
stuff is happening, I'm still gonna follow you despite that, because I know that that's just a temporary.
Yeah, that's just the nature of this world.
I think that's right on. I would just make one tweak about that, and it's orientation about the bad stuff. So one way that typically we would approach that from an Orthodox perspective is God's not ever doing anything bad to you, ever, period. God is only good and can only ever do good. But he can allow things to happen. And it's part of us living in this fallen world, and it's part of our suffering. Sometimes we are allowed an injury that changes our life.
Or choices that get us to that point too.
100%. So if anything ever is not desirable in your life, we can think the fallen nature of this world, and the author of that is Satan. But everything you said was so right on.
Christ established his kingdom, right? It reigns within his people. It doesn't reign here yet on earth, right? He's still redeeming this world. In the end, through his people, right? So Satan's still the prince of this world. He's still the ruler of this world. All right. 34. Salt is good, but if the salt has lost its flavor, how shall it be seasoned? It is neither fit for the land nor for the dunghill, but men throw it out. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. Before refrigeration, when you were going to preserve food, preserve meat, salt was a very common preservative. Actually, I was reading this and I went on a YouTube video. I'm like, how do they do this? And they just pack it with salt. They pack it with salt and it sucks all the moisture out. They hang it because the idea is to get all the moisture out so the bacteria can't grow. And then that meat, which is preserved life it's food, right? That's life in there for other people to take, right? It's preserved. Well, the disciples, us, the followers of Christ, we are to be the salt, to preserve this world, which is dying, right? Meat without salt, refrigeration, it's going to die and rot away. This world is rotting. So his people, his followers, are literally holding this world, preserving this world, right? And he uses, if it loses its flavor, it's not good for the land or the dunghill. Back in those times, everybody in a village would take their chamber pots, where they went in, they'd all throw it on a hill. And then they might scatter salt on there because it would take away the smell, right? So it's saying it's not even good to be thrown with that anymore, right? So maintain your faith in him, your walk with him, to preserve not just others, but to preserve your saltiness, your preservedness, preservability. You're looking at me. Anything you want to add? No? Well, I think you want to do your reading here, or should you just stop there?
You can fit the lost sheep in.
Okay, great. 1. Then all the tax collectors and the sinners drew near to him to hear him. And the Pharisees and scribes complained, saying, "This man receives sinners and eats with them." So he spoke this parable to them, saying, "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness, go after the one which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost.' I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over 99 just persons who need no repentance." This whole class we've been talking about a walk with Christ and the suffering that we endure. And yet, at the same time, Christ, at any point, every point in our life, whether we're following him, whether we're walking away from him, he's always right there, right? And anytime we walk away from him, whether in a big action, like we fully are walking the other direction, or just our day-to-day sins that we have, he's always searching, seeking us, right? And every time we come back to him, whether big, whether small ways, he's always so happy, so overjoyed for us, right? All these Pharisees, they want to throw these people out. These are tax collectors. Tax collectors are truly wicked people. They're people who betrayed their own. They become tax collectors, which means they don't get paid a salary. You know, if the governor says I need $5,000 denarii this month, well, they're going to go out collect 10,000, and that 5,000 denarii, that's their salary, right? So they're very rich. They're stealing from their people, effectively. So these are wicked people, and yet they come to Christ and saying, "This is my lost sheep. These are the lost sheep. And I'm the shepherd." So, you know, but they want to throw him out. That's not how it works. That's not how he works, his love.
I think to that end, sometimes we read scripture and we come across the standard, right? So this is like the best goal, what we want to do. Just like we talked about questing, how there's the ideal. And then there's economia, which is like, okay, I know that you're struggling with this, so meeting us where we are. So it's not to say that we're not striving. We're striving. The goal is if you are striving and stumbling, you're still on the path. If you are failing miserably and
giving
you don't
up,
care, right? You're just like, you know what? I'm good. I'm done. I don't care. I'm over it. And you're not striving toward Christ. You're not striving to be with him. You're not seeking. You're not trying to do better. You're not really on that narrow path anymore. Going back to this image we started with, that's really what's happening here, right? Like, I believe in God. Well, even the demons know who he is. You know, it's not enough to be like, I believe, because they're aware and they're scared too. Oh, you didn't see this. We had a little talk about it before.
Also, that's going uphill. You know, you stumble going uphill.
It's tough.
There's rocks in that road.
Sometimes there's like little pits and then you go down. So remember we talked about this process for us, this theosis is like, there's some wonderful holy people, I'm sure that it's much more beautiful and linear, but for the rest of us folk, me in particular, it's like boom,
you know, but
and then up a little bit, and then down again.
But most of the holy people we have stories from, it's not straight up. They all have a story of,
I can guarantee it looks better than my walk. I'll just say.
Yeah.
I would bet.
It's the striving, it's staying on the path. It's not a rubric, it's not you got to get the A on the test.
If it were
you know,
the
and it's
law,
one test, everyone's got the same test. You know, it's not that.
If it were, the law would have been sufficient. Like, Jesus wouldn't have had to come back, but it wasn't sufficient, and the Lord knew it was never going to be enough. Like, he was always going to come back. It was just kind of like
It was just-
preparatory. I don't want to call it a placeholder.
It was keeping them
minimizing.
literally disciplined and giving them a window into what it'll be. But it was never to save. It was never to bring them fully to God.
So, on that note, I'm going to depart from our usual reading. This is a reading I read around Easter time, and I wept and wept over it, and hopefully I can be a grown-up and read it today without doing that. The story of Strabula Anthropopoulos, the woman who had nothing and yet had everything. What follows is an inspiring story about a woman named Strabula who died on Holy Monday in 2004. I post this story every year on Holy Monday. In years past, I wrote that two people think about Strabula, forgive me, I cannot say her name, each year, me and a woman named Mary Pappas, who figures prominently in the story below. In spring of 221, Mary Pappas fell asleep in the Lord, so now it is left to me to remember Strabula. And some years later, and some year when I have passed on,
I hope that those who have read this post will remember Stabula on Holy Monday. Please take a few minutes to read. When someone close to us dies, we feel sad, we cry, we mourn, we remember, we tell stories about them to keep their memory fresh in our minds. Can you imagine if someone died and no one felt sad, no one cried, no one came and no one remembered? In 2004, on Holy Monday, in my last parish in Asheville, one such person died. I feel compelled to share her story because no one else in the world is talking about her today. On Holy Monday in 2004 at 5:15 a.m., I received a call from a healthcare center saying that a woman named Stella had passed away. The person on the phone told me that not only was I listed on her chart as her priest, but also as her next of kin. And then I heard the standard: if you don't want to claim her, she will be cremated and placed in an unmarked grave at a local cemetery and completely forgotten about. Keep in mind, cremation is not is rejected by the Orthodox Church, because it's like she was born in Greece. At one point, she was married and was abandoned by her husband. She had a son; he too abandoned her, and she found herself living on a small pension in Asheville, North Carolina. Her money began to run out, and her health took a turn downward. Because she waited too long to have cataracts removed, she lost her eyesight. With nowhere to turn, she became a ward of the state of North Carolina. She lived in a nursing home for the last 7 years of her life. She was blind, she couldn't see to read, or to walk, or to watch TV. She couldn't speak English, and so she often went days without talking to anyone. She was all alone in the world. The anniversary of my ordination to the priesthood is May 15th. I have always done liturgy on my anniversary, and I've always made a point of visiting someone in a hospital to mark that day each year. I was newly arrived in Asheville in 2000, and my anniversary came. I asked if anyone was in the hospital. Unfortunately, there wasn't anyone. A lady named Mary Pappas told me about Stabula, that she was alone in a nursing home and that only Mary was going to visit her. That day, Mary and I went to visit Stabula. For 4 years, Mary Pappas and I visited Stella faithfully at least 7 or 8 times a year. For Christmas, Epiphany, Holy Week, to sing Christos Anesti after Easter. For August 15th, for her name day on September 14th, which was my name day also. And every year on May 15th, the anniversary of my ordination to the priesthood. After the liturgy, I would always go and spend time with Stabula. I could gather that she must have been very faithful, or must have been a very faithful attendee at church services at some point in her life. It's hard to know how to pray with someone who is so ill, yet is not about to die. It doesn't seem right to pray for her to get better, or to pray for a peaceful ending either. So we would pray for strength, and then we would sing hymns, and this would draw her out from her sometimes very withdrawn mood. She knew the words to all the hymns, which always amazed me. Even if she seemed unresponsive to our greeting, as soon as she heard singing, she would start making her cross and sing with us. Our conversations were short but memorable. I remember one time she told me she had a dream, and that she saw me in the dream celebrating the liturgy. I asked her what did I look like since she was blind. She never actually had seen me. I remember one time I asked if she wanted to receive communion, and she said she had to wash her hands first because she was dirty, and after we washed and dried her hands, then she received communion. Once Mary and I went to visit her, and she was praying. She didn't see us come in or hear us, and I motioned to Mary that we should be quiet and wait for her to finish her prayer. She asked in her prayer if God could send Father and Mary because she wanted to see us. We said, "Here we are, Stabula," and she smiled and said, "That's the quickest I've ever had a prayer answered." A few months before she died, she asked me to talk to her about what heaven is like. The week before she died, I visited her for Holy Week, and she did an interesting thing. On every visit, we would sing hymns from the liturgical period in the church year, and so the week before Holy Week, we sang hymns from Lent and Holy Week. She sang with us, don't know Greek, so just make that on your own, and the hymn of Palm Sunday evening, "Behold, the bridegroom comes," and then abruptly stopped singing as we sang the hymns of Holy Week, and at the time, we couldn't figure out why. Shortly after we left, she suffered a massive stroke, and I was told she was going to die very soon. I thought she stopped singing the hymns because she's not going to be here during Holy Week, and sure enough, she passed away Holy Monday morning after we had sung the hymn of Palm Sunday night. I've never cried so much at a funeral as I did when I buried Stabula. Perhaps that is because there was no one else in the world who was crying for her, so God brought tears to my eyes. I remember doing all the arrangements for her funeral, and despite the fact that I did not pay to have her embalmed, bought the least expensive casket, and bought flowers from the market, it still cost $6,000. About a month later, I mentioned to my congregation that I needed help paying off my $6,000 credit card bill from the funeral. That night at a wedding, a guest came up to me at the reception and said that he had been in church and had heard about what I did for Stabula. He handed me an envelope and told me to open it after. I left the wedding reception. In the car, I opened the envelope and found $6,000 in cash. I went back in and asked the man his name because I didn't know him. He said, "My name is Michael, like the archangel, and that's all you need to know." God's sense of timing was perfect. My last year in Asheville, Holy Monday was April 5th. That put her 40-day memorial on my anniversary, May 15th. So I did liturgy and still visited Stabula. And the only empty spot in the Greek section of the cemetery happened to be next to Mary Pappas. On my last Sunday in Asheville, we dedicated her tombstone, which I designed, which reads, "Behold, the bridegroom comes in the middle of the night, and blessed is the servant who shall find patiently waiting." I didn't know this woman in her healthy life. I don't know what she did. I'm sure she had her joys and her sorrows, her triumphs and her mistakes. What I do know is that she's led a very difficult existence before I got here. She couldn't see or watch TV or read. She had difficulty communicating since her English wasn't very good. She was surrounded by strangers in a strange place and was grateful for the loving care. While we've all gone about our lives these last many years, she's not been able to do much of anything but sit and pray, and yet she was so happy to pray, eager to meet the Lord. She filled her days by praying by herself, and she remembered so many of the men of our church. As her eyes lost sight of the world and her mind began to lose much of its abilities and knowledge, her heart always remembered God. She got frustrated often and told us, but she never lost faith. She truly was an example of what St. Paul writes about in the Epistle to the Corinthians, as a person who has nothing yet possesses everything. I pray that our eyes have now been reopened to see the glory of God in heaven. And while I was fortunate enough to have seen her for 4 years, I can only hope that I one day find myself in heaven so she can see me. May her memory be eternal. On Holy Monday evening, we read about how Jesus chastised the leaders of the Jewish temple who were so strict in measuring out sacrificial offerings and forgot all about love and mercy and peace. And this is a critical lesson for us. Church is not about championing services. These things help us worship God. Church is not about festivals and buildings. These help us have a church where we can pray. Church is about love, mercy, and peace. These are the things that bring people to God. These are the things that bring people to God. He says it twice. There we go. Does anyone else need a lollipop after that? To kind of like bring you back up.
That's a powerful story. Where are you going?
Guys, we finished on time with 1 minute to spare for like the first time in like a month. So please don't hold back. Use this minute to tell us what you think.
Yeah.
So touching. And my mom, she was going through like a little depression a bit, and she says has deep faith too, but she's just going through that. I'm gonna read this. But she's getting better. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
thank you.
So you decided not to cry this time and make everyone
I
else
found
cry.
myself a few times, but then luckily we had a little visitor who kind
That's
of like
beautiful.
pulled
Brightened
me
it
out
up.
of it.
And thank you, Brandon, for
Oh.
the issues over here. It's too touching.
Is that a pop-up book?
Oh, December, oh, okay.
I thought you'd like that one. It has one of my favorites in there.
So, yeah, thank you.
This book only has words? Wow, 7 years alone.
Yeah.
I'd lose my mind. Especially not knowing English.
Oh gosh.
You know?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You're in
You're trying to
America.
explain something like, can I get a water?
Is she speaking Greek to them? Yeah.
Like no one thought like, maybe we should get a translator.
Oh my gosh.
What happened on
For
your
that
walk?
7 years.
It just was longer than you thought.
You brought the dads along, and there were cuts and
Don't go to North Carolina.
Not on honestly, not far looking for exercise.
How's the
You did?
Yeah, we heard so much about it.